This is Toledo's Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO Zach Vassar, music director Alain Trudel, and principal second violin and artistic administrator Merwin Siu. We also have a very special guest joining us by phone today. That is baritone Sidney Outlaw. Hello, Sidney.
Hello there.
Thanks for joining us today. You are performing with the Toledo Symphony music of Gustav Mahler, The Songs of a Wayfarer. This is on a program that also includes Brahms Symphony No. 4 and a piece by Lili Boulanger, which is really a rarity. It's called Of a Sad Evening. And the whole program comes under the title of Love Songs. So these are not your typical love songs. I'm interested to hear from the powers that be what brings all of these works together. Before we have a conversation with you, Sidney, let me ask, who's responsible for this, first of all? Am I looking at you, Merwin? You're pointing at Alain. So, Alain, this was your brainchild, these love songs. Give us a little bit of a primer on how all these pieces come together.
Well, we started last year, the orchestra, to do programs that had like a phrase or just a word in our titles, just to bring it down to the bare essence of what we meant by that program. And I like to do that exercise because, you know, if I can bring it down to, you know, love or something, or love
Snore.
Yeah.
No, but it means that it's an exercise that makes it very clear for the audience what they're in for, but not snores.
Yeah.
So I thought once the premise started, what is the symphony or the symphonist or what composer wrote of symphonic work that make me really, really think of love. And whenever I hear like the most deepest feelings of love, and when I hear the beginning of Brahms' Fourth Symphony, there's something, I don't know. I mean, we can elaborate all we want. We can say maybe it's the story that happened but never happened with Clara Schumann. Maybe it's, you know, he became an older, like a single guy. And I don't know, maybe it stayed like something that he thought was unattainable that made him, you know, that kind of feeling in his music. But anyway,
are you talking about Brahms or
we're talking about Brahms?
Okay,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah. His relationship with Schumann, like that. I'm sorry, I'm chiming in. I'm sorry.
Jump in there, Sidney.
Go for it.
You know what? Singers are allowed to speak on this program. It's okay.
It's the same thing. Like, because didn't he have to convince her to come to the opening of the Requiem? You know, and she sat with him down front. That was like a big thing. So when I think of the Brahms, is it in E minor? Brahms Symphony in E minor. Yeah, you know, I think of that too. I thought, oh, of course they would do that. Great, yeah.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we have a singer who knows about tonalities, so we're gonna have a great show this week.
Absolutely, round of applause there. But let me ask you this though: this
tonality of love,
this whole "Songs of a Wayfarer" thing, right? And Sidney, you can chime in on this. These are not like your typical love songs. I mean, isn't one of the movements like "I've got a big knife" or "I've got I've got a gleaming knife," something like that? I mean, that sounds a little stalkerish.
Yes, you know, it is. I think Mahler was an interesting guy, and I just look at his life that he led, and I feel like he wrote what he was feeling. Like most writers, they write stories. They write, you know, Toni Morrison wrote essays. They wrote about what they were feeling, how they were feeling. A painter paints that way. I mean, if you look at singers of today, like one of my favorite R&B singers is Babyface, and he writes things that are on his heart. And this cycle, I always, when I was young, I said, this cycle is my love life. Marilyn Horne said.
Wait, I want to hear what Marilyn Horne said.
She said, sweetheart, you have to live a little. You know, and you know, I was overreacting, but you know, it's interesting. That's why I always said I'm looking forward to doing a more mature version of this, because I'm pushing 40 now, and it's interesting. It will be interesting to see what it feels like because of the text and the words now at the age that I'm at, and I've lived a little and those types of things. So, you know, I think that I love the pairing of the Mahler with the Brahms. You know?
Alain is chomping at the bit to say something here.
Hey, Sidney, does that mean that when we did parts of this in Montreal, you were like 29?
And you had no life experience.
Wow. No, but wow.
Wait, well, hang on. Let's pause here for a second. Alain, I want you to talk a little bit about Sidney because you hired him for this job, right? Let me bring in a little music. There we go. Now, Alain, tell us the story of the love songs here, your love affair, so to speak, with the voice of Sidney Outlaw.
Well, Sidney and I met in Montreal some years ago. Things you can do with a microphone. Okay.
Hey, so, look, if this conducting thing doesn't work out, I think you have options.
Yeah, exactly. So I was conducting the Montreal International Voice Competition, and met Sidney there. And as a conductor, of course, that year, who was there? Who won that big prize?
First year, Angela Mead.
Angela Mead. So Angela Mead was there.
Mead.
So of course she cleaned house, went to the Met and etc. But I had two singers that I really, really loved. My two favorite singers were, of course, Sidney and was Andrew Garland that we hired for Carmina Burana.
Oh,
so they were my two favorite singers. And then I worked again with Sidney. We did the excerpts from. What was it? You did Rodrigo, right? From Don Carlo.
Don Carlo.
Yeah, and I just think the world of him. I just thought he's such a great artist, and I'm so surprised to hear today that he was only 29 back then, because it was like, wow, yeah, this is gonna be.
I remember that first time coming to Montreal because I was just finishing the Young Artist program at Florida Grand Opera.
Yeah, and
I was in a hurry to leave Florida because maybe that week there was a news article that came out and on the news saying that they had a Burmese python problem in the city of and I'm petrified of snakes. And so I was like, wait a minute, what? And they were like, yeah, they can climb in through the toilets and get your dogs out of the backyard, that they have small dogs. And I was not scheduled to be in Montreal as early as I was. But I remember the competition let me come early because I was having a hissy fit about the Burmese python outbreak in Miami, Florida.
A hissy fit about a python outbreak?
Oh,
that's good.
Yes. Somebody's python, they let it out into the Everglades and it had babies. And so these babies are growing.
Oh, but they're probably so cute.
Oh, no. Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Let's get back on track here.
What, you think we got off track?
Yeah. That's my Johannes Brahms stinger right there. I've got to use it. I used it in our last podcast. I got to use it this time again because you're playing Brahms again.
It's Brahms, and more Brahms. That's what we've been doing.
Brahms and Mahler.
Yeah, Brahms and
this
Mahler.
is like your favorite program.
I'm so excited for this. Yes, I call it the Great Brawler.
No, it's a brawler. It's like a bromance between Mahler and Brahms. Yeah. Poor Lili Boulanger left out in the.
Oh no, but we have to talk about her too.
Well, we will. But go ahead.
Yeah. So this is Brahms wrote four symphonies, and this has always been my favorite. I will change it tomorrow, so don't get any ideas. But my password on my computer has always been Brahms 4. I love this symphony.
It's okay.
So
we'll
much.
beep that out so folks won't all try to break into your computer.
Then they'll think that my passwords sound like some cuss words or something. Yeah. My password's bloop you, Brad.
Wow, I'm honored.
Yeah, it's okay. But no, these Songs of a Wayfarer, though, are you kidding me? I'm so excited for this. I don't know that I've ever seen it performed with a baritone, so I'm very excited for that as well. Yeah, I always say with the mezzo.
Usually a woman, yeah.
And of course, I have recordings of the baritones, but I've never seen it live. So Sidney, you get to be my first.
Wow.
I think you need to play that music again.
Oh, but I mean...
no, wait, I hit the wrong button. That's a different one.
There you go.
Hang on.
There you go.
Oh, you sing this, don't you, Sidney?
Oh, listen, I love, that's my favorite role, one of my favorite roles to sing. I just can't get anybody to hire me to do it.
This is a remix version, though. It's slightly different. If you can sing it like this, boy, I am there.
Gosh.
Yes.
This is wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
I always thought the art was hard enough to sing.
I was just going to say.
So we're back in the mashup.
I'm having
You're
a
in the
little
mashup, yeah.
a little show and tell here, I guess.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, but
All right,
when
I'll turn
I
it
think
off.
about I'm going to just keep going here. When
Go
I think
ahead.
about the songs of Wayfarer, I have to think of this. These are love songs that that come from a guy's heart. And you guys were joking about the Gleaming Knife song, number 3. But this has always been my favorite one. And I've always interpreted the Gleaming Knife to be the sort of like it's so.
Do I need to bleep this part too, or no?
I was going to say radiant, but okay. There's something just beautiful and so sincere about the love at this point. And he's talking about having a knife against his chest, and you just get to this point where you're so full of love and loss and lust, I guess, where you just you get to that point of almost going mad with the feeling. And so I feel like, silly title aside, it has this wonderful moment in it, but the words are so great because
Indeed.
he's looking into the sky and he sees the 2 blue eyes, which then come up as the 4th song. And there's just such a love song in this, and they're all love songs. But for me, you guys are laughing about the title. This is my favorite of the 4.
What are the other movements?
Yeah, you start out with When My Love Has Her Wedding Day is the first one, or Lover on a Wedding Day. The second one is Walking Across the Fields. I always call it Strawberry Fields Forever. It's Walking Across the Fields This Morning. I've got The Gleaming Knife, which we talked about. And in that, he talks about seeing 2 blue eyes in the sky. Those are his lover's eyes. And when he walks around the field, he sees the golden hair. And so the stars in the sky and the field is the hair. He's surrounded by love for this person. And he says at the end, he might never open his eyes again because he's surrounded by it. And then we come out with the 2 blue eyes as a 4th song, which is also gorgeous. But
Yeah.
In 1884, I think December of 1884, there are 2 extra pieces, poems, that he mentions in his letters that were not in the cycle. But in his letters, he mentioned 6 songs, if I remember correctly. They were supposedly written in like December, November, the winter of '84.
Well, we should say he wrote his own text
He did.
for these songs. So,
That's right.
so he wrote these extra poems that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Can you give us English titles or paraphrase of what they were?
I can't remember like the details of it, but I know that there were 2 poems that were included in a letter of some sort.
Does this ring a bell for you, Alain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and if I can go just a little deeper for a second here, it's what links all these works in my head. That's not second level, but like 3rd level of thinking of that. Is that one is like Impossible Love with the symphony, with the relationship with Johannes Brahms and Clara Schumann. One is Unrequited Love with because Mahler starting writing all of these because of he was in love with the singer, but he was doing an opera, and that didn't work out. And the first one with Lili Boulanger is Not Enough Time to Experience Love, really.
Yeah.
So there's a certain sadness that goes around and that links all of these pieces together. Now, it's not something you're going to feel as a listener that while you're there, it's dramatic, but there's a certain kind of like, it's really end of the, like, when you take the time of Vienna at the end of the 19th century.
Fin de siècle sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the end of their world.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world, the end of the world as we've known it for a while. And Lili Boulanger is not from there, of course, but
Not
there's a
far off.
certain, there's a certain, the end of the old Europe also a little bit.
Well, let's give folks a little background on Lili Boulanger, because she was, of course, the sister of the famous pedagogue Nadia Boulanger, who lived into the 70s. But Lili Boulanger died very young. She was just 24, I believe, when she died. And this was one of the last pieces that she wrote. Yeah. And it wasn't actually, it was completed with the help of her sister, but not until many, many years later that Nadia Boulanger actually took it upon herself to get this out into the world. You want to talk about that a little bit, Merwin?
Well, I think that the actual manuscript that Lili created was almost illegible because her hand was so weak that she actually, you couldn't read the notes particularly well. So it actually required her sister to really help realize what Lili's intentions were. But I think it was one of the great things about Nadia Boulanger was her ability to recognize genius and to really nurture that in everybody. All of her amazing students, but especially with Lili, she saw that almost immediately and very selflessly realized that she was maybe the superior talent, at least compositionally, and always worked tirelessly to bring Lili's works into the world. And it's the companion piece of the piece that we did earlier, spring morning. And so now to come in with this feels very appropriate. So, and
a sad evening. Yeah. And Lili Boulanger was somebody who was sick all the time. I guess they say now that she had Crohn's disease. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And she died when she was 24. But she had been recognized as a composer, had won the Prix de Rome, which is a big composer prize. And the fact that you're able to perform this, I think, I mean, you're starting with this. It kind of sets the tone for the evening. Yeah. and where does it go from there?
It's bittersweet. Everything feels bittersweet in that evening. Even Brahms, that's very glorious at moments, in that third movement. But there's always a certain kind of bittersweetness to it. I remember when I think I'm conducting from that score you're talking about, it's impossible to read. The score, really, it's handwritten, and there's stuff. But she was really, really a genius. Like the harmonically, melodically, very, very in advance to what other composer would write. She would be on par with the great French composers of that time. Anyway, but I really think for me the link between all of those, as I told you, the link I had inside me makes it that's kind of love is a bittersweet experience sometimes.
Yeah. Well, this is a concert that obviously plumbs the depths of feeling and of love. So it's not, a lighthearted romp, shall we say. No. There's a lot going on here. I wonder, Sidney, if we could take a few minutes and talk about you and your background a little bit. If you could tell us how you got into singing. And I've got some music for you here. Let me pull this up. There we go.
Back in the back hills of Western North Carolina.
Perfect. Just
at 11:30 in the morning on a Saturday in 1981, my mother was sitting in the hospital eating cubed ice, according to my father.
You've told this story before, haven't you?
And a child was born. This is the way my dad always told the story about the day I was born. Like, literally, my dad would be like, yeah, man, your mom wanted to eat ice. That's all she wanted to eat before you were born. Even the morning you were born, And so I grew up in Brevard, North Carolina, and it's about 30 minutes. Now it's about 20 minutes because of new highways from Asheville, North Carolina.
Don't they have a big music festival there in Brevard?
Yes. Brevard Music Center is literally was in my backyard, My family lives up in that area, and so we grew up hearing classical music and going to different events. And then when I was in maybe middle school or high school, they put the Porter Center, the Paul Porter Center for Performing Arts downtown. And so I grew up around music. I come from a dynasty of musical people on my mother's side of the family, church musicians. And so I grew up, listening to all kinds of music and church music and gospel and things like that, and being in concert choir and band. I played the French horn for 14 years.
Wow.
And so, yes, big up Brevard High School, Dr. Palmer. And, so I grew up around music, and I knew that I wanted to do something in music. And I kind of knew I wanted to perform, and so I've always been involved in music, and somehow or another, about 6 years ago, I fell into this faculty position at the Aaron Copland School of Music here in New York City at Queens College, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me as an artist, because I get to practice my craft by showing other people how to do it, and I get to give back in that at the same time. It's not just about me doing a gig or doing the concert with Toledo Symphony and then calling my manager and saying, okay, what's next before this concert is even over. And so being a teacher has taught me how to value the work that we do as artists and also how to build the next generation of young artists, singers, So
it's interesting to hear you talking about building the next generation, because you seem like you are the next generation. But yeah,
listen, they are. My manager said that this morning. That's the same conversation she and I had. And she's like, "I thought you were the next generation." I was like, "Yeah, but I'm doing it.
yeah.
I'm literally living my dreams." You can ask Maestro. I told him I wanted to travel the world and sing, and he said, "You will." And that's what I do, and when I'm not, I'm at the Queen's College teaching my students who are making strides in their own. I had a student just get into Ames in Vienna. I'm going to Vienna this summer to see her concert. I have another one going to Chautauqua. So I'm able to take those things that I learn and give back to my students so that they can go off into the world and do great things. And that's what my parents did with me,
Wow, that's great.
So it's interesting how that cycle continues and how we can have it continue either in a negative way or in a positive way, and I was just determined to not have any generational curses between my students and I, because I've heard horror stories from other singers, and I don't want that. So I try to stay on the up and up. I try to stay busy. The hardest part for me is finding a balance between work life and social life.
Yeah.
I always feel that having a social life gives me something to sing about. If I don't date, I will sing songs of a Wayfarer very well because
this is what Marilyn Horne was talking about.
Yeah,
my teachers taught them. I studied with the best. They taught me how to do that.
Yeah, but we don't need to hear about your recent dates or anything like that. But.
well, I just say it's interesting to do them and have something to latch on to as a character and as a place of reference as to what the text means.
Yeah.
To be able to relate to that. Nobody's ever stabbed me in the back, but I have been betrayed by a friend. I have, those types of things, And so I try my hardest to live my life as well so that I have some life experiences to bring to the art form and give
figures,
to breathe my life into whatever work I'm doing, as a character.
So Sidney, you're making me think about some of the new photographs that your team sent over to our marketing department, which now are on the website. But there's one of you looking like you're selling like cigars. You're in this like dark paneled room wearing a navy blue smoking jacket.
I was actually in the Carnegie Club, which is a cigar bar right behind Carnegie Hall.
There you have it.
Wow.
I think that you are living very well in that social life, and I can't wait to hear what cigar songs sound like. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about that is that my friend Daniel Welch, who's a wonderful photographer, he asked them, could we come there in the morning to do that shoot, because he knew that if we go there in the afternoon or evening, the cigar smoke would bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I can be pretty persnickety about that. I'm not persnickety in general, but I don't like snakes. And I don't like a smoke smell. Mm-hmm. I don't too much like tomatoes or cucumbers either.
We're writing this down. It should be in your writer.
Yeah. And so he asked their permission because he goes there a lot, and they accommodated us, and so it didn't smell like tobacco or anything in there when I went in there.
Cucumbers.
And so or cucumbers or tomatoes. So it was when I do photo shoots, I love doing them, and I love them to resemble what I'm really like. I did a photo shoot in Baltimore because I was in D.C., and I met a wonderful photographer down there, David, and he just started his photography business, and I wanted to support him. And so we did a whole photo shoot just so I could support his business. And he got some great shots, the ones that are in black and white, with my leather jacket on and stuff like that. And so I'm pretty open about, helping other artists support in that capacity. There's a lot more I could do besides just share on social media, actually go work with them and help promote their business in that way. So I'm glad you all like those.
Yeah, they're great.
Well, in this day and age, I mean, it's important to have a visual presence that can precede you, when you're touring on concert. So we're glad to see that part as well. We're just about out of time for this on-air version of our podcast. Is there anything that anybody wants to say before we sign off with Sidney?
No, I'm just very excited that you're coming to see us in Toledo. Great to work with you again, my dear.
Yeah, you'll have your reunion.
Yeah, well, some of those Mahler songs were one of the first things we ever did together. So we're
Number
very
3,
happy to
we
do.
did the third one.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
It was in the old hall before they moved to the new hall.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yep.
Well, we look forward to it. Definitely.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for letting me hang out with you this afternoon.
Thanks, Sidney.
We appreciate your time. We'll be waiting for you in Toledo. We'll make sure that there's no cigars or tomatoes or cucumbers or anything like that.
No snakes.
Burmese pythons.
No pythons. Please. Absolutely. No hissy fits, nothing like that.
What a pleasure. I can't wait to meet you, Sidney.
Absolutely.
You got the coolest name in the business, and I can't wait to hear
your
your voice.
that there's a mixed martial arts fighter named Sidney Outlaw, too. Did you know this?
And you know what? And damn it, I can't have anything tonight. Every now and then I want to message him because we're friends on social media. I don't know him, but we're friends because we have the same name. And here's the other thing. I can't speak freely to him the way that I want to because he can kick my butt. You're not going to take a knife to a gunfight, So I'm like, hey, how you doing? I hope all is well. I wish you didn't have my name.
You guys, you should just do a switch your job for a day. You go do a fight, have him come sing a concert.
Trust me.
See what happens.
The only thing, I don't know karate, but I damn sure know crazy. And that's the only time
you just freak him out.
I am definitely not a fighter. I'm one of those people call security, please. Where is my security detail? That kind of a thing. So,
we'll put that in your writer too. Security detail.
Absolutely. So it's one of those things. But yeah, he's there.
Sidney Outlaw is performing Songs of a Wayfarer, a Gustav Mahler song. That's happening this weekend, Friday and Saturday, March 13th and 14th, 8 o'clock p.m. at the Toledo Museum of Art, Peristyle. More information at toledosymphony.com or 419-246-8000. Again, Sidney, thanks for joining us today on the program.
Thank you so much.
This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of our program as a podcast on our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Alain Trudel, Merwin Sue, and of course, again, to Sidney Outlaw for joining us today. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.